Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me on this grey morning. It's not too cold. There's a little bit of sunshine poking through here and there, but it's a nice quiet Sunday out in the countryside, and we're going to be driving today a little road test for you in this 2001, or is it a 2002? I'm not 100% sure, I'll have to check. Jaguar XK8 Coupe. A little bit of history about these cars. I'm sure a lot of you know already, but for those of you that don't, I will give you a little bit of history. Launched in 1996 in coupe and convertible form. Based on the XJS platform, derived from the XJS platform. All the early cars came with the 4-litre AJ V8 Jaguar engine. A couple of years later, Jaguar introduced the XKR with the supercharger. And then post 2002, I think it was, they changed the 4-litre V8 for the 4.2. I think later cars got a 6-speed automatic gearbox as well, and also the XKRs became 4.2 as well, obviously with the supercharger on. What can I tell you about this one? Let's have a look around the passenger compartment. Typical Jaguar, lots of leather, lots of wood. I really like the passenger compartment on these. Love the design of the dashboard. You know, great big wood veneers there. It just really adds that touch of luxury to it. Really easy to see all the dials. I mean, it's not awash with information. You've got your speedo in front of you, rev counter on the left, fuel and temperature gauge. As I say, really easy to read. You've got a clock in the middle, battery voltage and oil pressure, which realistically is about all you need. As I say, really easy to see, really easy to read. Center console is housing your air conditioning controls, your climate controls, you know, rear demist for the windows, front demist, traction control button. Underneath that you've got your, still in 2001, 2002, a tape deck. I think we've got a CD changer in the boot on this. I'm not 100% sure actually. I'll have to check that. Electric windows, electric mirror adjust. You've got sports mode on your gearbox. Remote boot release, a remote fuel cap release, and that's about it. I mean, really, it's pretty simple. Rather generous glove box. The seats, the leather seats, are great in this particular car. Now they do, with age and with mileage, and dependent, I suppose, upon who's been driving it, the seats can lose a bit of their plumpness, let's say, and can become a little bit flat. But this one, I think the car's only done, what's it done mileage? I think it's 40. It's a low mileage car, 48,000. The seats are still really comfortable, really grip you where you need to, you know, give you the support where you need it. Really, really comfortable. So that's good. They are a 2+2 coupe. I mean, realistically, there's no room in the back. I mean, the seats are pretty much, you'd get a couple of small children in child seats. Realistically, you're not going to get an adult in there for any sort of distance. They're pretty much useless. The boot on these, pretty sizable, practical boot. Certainly enough room for a suitcase for an overnight. Or whatever. So there's, you know, they're pretty good in that regard. Yeah, so in the cabin, great, really comfortable, really nice place to be. Just what you'd expect really on a Jaguar of this vintage. I've not a lot more to go over, I don't think, in the cockpit. So I think we should get it out onto the road and see how it drives. So let's do that now. Okay, so out on the road. First impressions. Seating position, very comfortable, but very much upright. You know, this is definitely a GT car rather than an out-and-out sports car. You know, it is a GT car, but the seating position is very much like a saloon car. You know, as I say, we're very upright. Got a great view of the road in front. Visibility out front is great. I would suggest I feel just a little bit high. There is adjustment in the seats, up and down, forward and back, seat backrest adjust, all electric. But as I say, this position that I'm in now is where I find myself most comfortable, but it is very much upright. You have got adjustment in the steering wheel, up and down and forward and back. You know, so there's plenty of scope to get yourself nice and comfortable. The road that we're on now is a countryside B road. Like all the roads in the UK at the moment, the surface quality is appalling, and that is not showing the car off to the best. It's feeling every bump. It's pretty skittish, even at this low speed. You know, I can feel it moving around, but you know, as I say, we're onto a bit of a newly resurfaced stretch here, and yeah, straight away, you know, the ride quality is a lot better. Again, it's a lot firmer than an XJ, than a Jaguar XJ. You know, it's definitely got that GT feel about it. Pushing on a little bit in the corners. It's sure-footed. You know, it doesn't feel like a big heavy car particularly. You know, it's precise in its steering. It doesn't feel particularly wallowy. So yeah, it handles nicely, and as I say, for a car of this type and this age, very, very comfortable. You may be able to hear a few rattles and things from the interior trim. The main one being the air vents in the top of the dash. The first thing I've had to do when I've got out on the road here is stop after about 20 yards and shove a folded up business card in between the air vent and the windscreen to stop the vent rattling. I've had that issue on virtually every XK8 or XKR of this type I've ever had in stock. It must just be a thing that they do. They just rattle, and a little bit of foam or a bit of plastic, or as I say, a business card, you know, precision engineered to shove into the gap, and it stops it rattling. But they all seem to do the same thing. So don't be put off too much about interior rattles and things like that. I guess, as much as I love these Jaguars, and as much as I think they've got that great you know, old smoking room kind of feel to them with the leather and the wood, I just sadly don't feel like they're screwed together as well as the German counterparts. I mean, what is the German equivalent to one of these? Probably the R129 SL, or a CL perhaps, of the same sort of vintage. You know, that I do think sadly they're better put together than the Jaguars. But having owned a few R129s and the later R230 SLs, yes, they're screwed together better. Are they more fun to own? not in my book. I prefer a Jaguar every time, really, but then again, I think I am biased. I do like the Jaguars. Plenty of power, more than enough power from the V8. As I say, this is just a normally aspirated 4 litre. For general driving or as a Sunday driver, for me, it's more than enough. I mean, I know some of you guys might want more power from the XJR, I beg your pardon, the XKR, the supercharged, and they are a different animal, really. I'd say the XK8, you know, with the normally aspirated 4 litre, is purely a cruising car, and it does that really, really well. I mean, you know, as I said, there's plenty of power for what most people would need. It'll cruise at 80, 90, 100 mile an hour on the motorway, no problem. One thing I do notice, and you guys might be able to pick it up on the camera, considering we're travelling at a relatively low speed, there's quite a bit of wind noise, which, the passenger window was down a little bit there. I'll just nip that back up and see if it improves the wind noise at all. But yeah, that was one of the first things I noticed as we set off there. Just, you know, definite wind noise above the XJ that I've been driving on a daily basis. And as I say, we're only at relatively low speeds, 30, 40 mile an hour, which is not great, I'll be honest. So we're 30 mile an hour there. It doesn't sound so bad now, so maybe it was the no, I can definitely hear it on this window here. There's definite wind noise. Like I say, we're only at a low speed. We'll go on to the motorway now, get it up to motorway speed, and see how it performs. Miles per gallon, you know, just to give you an insight as to what you might expect to get out of these economy-wise. As I say, over the years I've owned a few, I've driven a few. Realistically, I would suggest you're going to get 20 to 21, 22 mile per gallon, maybe around town, general driving. I mean, I live 15 miles away from where I work, and my commute is a mix really of A roads, faster A roads, B roads, and a little bit of through town driving. And as I say, having owned these, I realistically get about 20, 21, 22 miles per gallon on a, you know, using them daily. I've never ever had, and people have told me they'll do it, you know, on a long motorway run, they will do 30, 31 to the gallon. In all honesty, I've never ever managed to get it out of the 20s, and I'm not a particularly quick driver. I think you might get 30 mile per gallon if you're doing a long distance on the motorway in the middle of the night. But again, you know what the state of the UK roads are like in terms of roadworks and traffic jams and hold-ups. I've never had 30 to the gallon out of one. But you know, what can you expect? You don't buy a car like this for the economy. So I think, you know, 25 as a mean average is probably about where you're going to be with them. So we're up to 70 mile an hour there now on the motorway. Again, there is a bit of wind noise from it. I have been driving the XJ, the X350 XJ daily for the last couple of months, and it's discernibly noisier than that. Definitely noisier than that. But again, when we consider it is derived from the XJS platform, so we're on a 40-50 year old platform, it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, they are old cars now. It's, you know, over 20 years old. The oldest ones are 25 years old now. So yeah, it's not imposing. It's not you know, it's not irritating, it's not spoiling the experience, but it is there. On this particular car, we've just got a base spec with no cruise control. You know, so there's no cruise control on this one, which is, yeah, I would have thought that they would have all come with cruise control, but they don't. So again, if that's something you're looking for, you do need to look specifically for that. Make sure it's on the car that you're looking at, if that's what you want. So on the brakes, again, nice progressive pedal on them. You know, the suspension, I mean, it's typical Jaguar really. You know, it gives a really floaty ride, especially for a GT car, you know. Again, takeoff's really smooth, power delivery's really smooth. The gearbox, pretty seamless in its change, which you should always have really in one of these. If it's a good gearbox, it should be pretty seamless in its change. They do benefit from a good gearbox service every now and again. I mean, as you probably all know, Jaguars of this age, of this vintage, you know, the suggestion was it was a seal for life gearbox. I think they benefit massively from a gearbox oil change and a service, particularly if there's no history of that within the service history. If there's no document of there ever being a gearbox service, if you are buying one of these, I would certainly look for that in the history file, a recent gearbox service, or if it hasn't been done, you know, factor that into you know what you're paying for the car, and think about it as something you want to do going forward if you do buy one of these. Again, on the mechanical side of things, what can I tell you? I mean, from my experience, and it's well documented as well, that the 4 litres do have an inherent weakness with the timing gear. The timing tensioners are of a plastic body design on the earlier cars, and they can crack, resulting in failure. The later 4.2 engines had an aluminium body tensioner design, which are a lot better in terms of their reliability and their longevity. So if you are looking at a 4 litre car, have a look to see whether the timing gear's been upgraded to the later metal type. If they haven't, factor that in as something you'll want to do going forward, or maybe look for a 4.2 engine car, you know, that's had that done from the factory. Aside from that, mechanically, I think they're pretty good. I don't think there's anything that I can think of that you know, springs to mind as being particularly weak on them. Bodywork wise, you know, structurally, I mean, as of any car of this age, you know, the youngest cars are what, 25 years old now. I beg your pardon, the oldest cars are 25 years old now, the youngest 15, 16 years old. So you've got to look for corrosion. On these, the floors, front floors, floor pans can rot out, the sills can rot, and then basically anything from the rear wheel arches backwards can rot. So look in those areas. If they have been repaired previously, you know, try and look for cars that have been repaired well, that aren't a patchwork quilt of welding and filler and goodness knows what else, you know, all the usual things that you'd look for on any sort of classic car, you know, or car of this age. But certainly they can, and they do corrode, so look out for that. If you buy a good one, do some preventative maintenance, you know, wax oil it, under seal it, whatever. use a product of your choice to protect it, because they will, and they do rust. So again, look out for that. I mean, really, on these B roads, the car performs really nicely. The brakes have a really nice feel to them. Nice progressive pedal. This one stops nice and straight, there's no vibration or anything like that. Not all of them are the same. As with any car of this age, you can get good ones and bad ones. You shouldn't really have any vibration in the wheel under braking. Same with the suspension. Any sort of clunks or bangs or whatever, and you're looking at bushes needing replacing and things like that, you shouldn't really get any noticeable bangs or clunks from the suspension. As I say, road surface is appalling. Thank you UK governments and local councils for that. But this one seems pretty good. You know, everything seems as it should be. So just coming up to the junction here, it's a little bit of a closed junction, so it's a bit difficult to see. So it's this kind of junction where you might start to pull out and think, oh, I need a bit of power here. And as I say, there's plenty there. I mean, it's up to the speed limit there, you know, so there's enough. You know, it's never going to break any land speed records, or certainly not going to break any lap records. But for the kind of car it is, I think there's enough power. As I say, the XKR, different animal altogether, and if we get the opportunity, if we get an XKR in, we will road test it and we can compare the two. But yeah, I think it's perfectly, you know, I think the engine and the chassis are well matched. You know, I think that they're well matched. It's obvious that it is based upon the XJS. There are those similarities there in the way that it drives and the way the XJS's drive. I think it's the V8 engine that sort of, it does feel a little bit more refined, I think, than the XJS. So it is an evolution, definitely. Is it better? I don't know. Is it different? Yeah, definitely different. But there are similarities there. It's very easy to drive, you know. There's no effort required. But driving it round these A and B roads this morning, I'm almost wondering if it's crying out for a manual gearbox. I just feel like I want to sort of work the car a bit harder than I am doing with an automatic box. It almost feels like I'm not massively involved in the drive, and it feels a bit of a shame, really. You know, maybe that's what it needs. Maybe it should have had a manual gearbox, and it's not like me to say that, because I like a big engine and an automatic box. But yeah, I wonder if it's just, yeah, maybe it does need it. Maybe they should have offered it with a manual option. I don't know, but they didn't. So we've not much choice in the matter, really. I know there are companies out there that will do I've seen a few manual conversions on the XKR, which I'm sure are incredible. But yeah, maybe that's something that could have been an option. So what conclusion do we come to regarding the XK8? How do we mark it? Where do we see it? I like them, but then again I like Jaguars. In terms of its design, I think it was an instant classic when it was released. It was obvious that Jaguar were trying to recapture the E-Type, which they hadn't done with the XJS. I don't think they intended to do with the XJS, but certainly I think with this one that they were trying to recapture some of that E-Type feel, and they've done that. You know, the styling cues are obvious, aren't they? And I think it's a beautiful car. I do. I don't think there's any denying that. So it wins in that regard for me. I mean, I think if you see one on the road and you compare it to a Mercedes of the same vintage, as I was saying earlier, the R129, I think the XK8 wins, you know, the beauty contest every time. What did BMW have at the time? Did they have a large GT car in the mid-90s? I'm trying to think. I don't think they did they? The Z3, the 840s and the 850s. I think they kind of did. I think they'd gone, hadn't they, by then? And then obviously we had the 6 Series, you know, the 645 CI, you know, the Bangle designed 6 Series that came that little bit later. I suppose there was a crossover between the XK8 and the 6 Series. Again, I think in terms of design, you know, if it's a beauty contest, I think the XK8 wins it. So I love it from a design point of view. I think it was an instant classic. I think it's a classic now. It's aged really well. How does it drive? Does it drive as well as an R129, an SL, a 6 Series? Okay. Having owned all three, it pains me to say it, but probably not. I think the weaknesses of the XJS platform are obvious. You know, I don't think it's not as refined, it's not as developed as the Mercedes equivalent or the BMW equivalent. But can we, you know, can we hold that against it? I don't think so. I don't think so. It surprises me driving it today how much, and I am not a manual gearbox kind of guy, but I just think, I don't know why, but I just feel it's crying out for a manual gearbox. Tell me what you think in the comments. You guys that own them, what do you think? I might be completely wrong. And as I say, it is not like me to even think about a manual gearbox, but I don't know, I just think this car might benefit from it, which surprises me. Interior wise, again, it wins for me. It's just got that feel, and it wins, you know. Is it as good as the Mercedes or the BMW? No. Do the BMW and the Mercedes make you feel the same way the Jaguar does? No, not even close. So for me, again, does it win? I don't know. They're different cars. I love them. I think they're an instant classic. I think if you can buy a good one, and you can buy a good one now, buy it, keep it nice, do the preventative maintenance, keep on top of it, and you've got a classic car that you can use every day if you wish, certainly for high days and holidays, and you know, a road trip, a trip into Europe, down to the south of France. Perfect, brilliant. Buy a good one, and you're never going to lose a penny, I don't think, in terms of depreciation. They're only they're only going to go up now value wise, aren't they? Let's be honest. And yeah, you know, do yourself a favour, buy a good one, pop it in the garage, use it and enjoy it. That's what they're there for. But yeah, on the whole, a really nice British GT car. They're not making any more, are they? So let's enjoy them while we still can. Yeah, I've enjoyed driving it this morning. Putting a few miles on it, keeping it warm, keeping it ticking over, keeping everything working. I hope you've enjoyed the video too. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you have done. We've got loads of similar content coming. So yeah, that's about it, I think. So the sun's coming out, I've got to get it back. I suppose I should give it a quick wash and put it away. So until the next one, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you soon. Take it easy.